Welcome to Being Curious podcast show, proudly supported by Moss Skin, a UK-based skincare line infused with sea moss. Thank you, Jason, for agreeing to do part 2.
Thank you for having me.
I'm aware that people weren't or may not have listened to the first podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of explain or give an insight to who you are and where you are at this moment in time?
My name is Jason Johnson. Many people know me as JJ Born to Sing, the singer, stroke songwriter. And I'm at a point in my life now where I'm about to transition from JJ Born to Sing to Jason Johnson. And I'll explain a little. Basically, I've been doing, the singing songwriting since 2008, probably. So I've been carrying the name.
That's a long time, isn't it?
Long time. And so I've been carrying the name JJ Born to Sing for a while. But over the years, I'm having a mentor also. 4 years ago, we came to a crossroad where my mentor was saying to me, Jason, you really need to think about rebranding. And I was like, okay, why? And so it was because the name JJ Born to Sing, he was saying to me, don't you think that it limits you? It puts you in a box because it makes people believe that the only thing that you're born to do is to sing, when you're, in actual fact, you're an entrepreneur, you are a businessman, you are a mentor yourself, and we went through this whole list of things that I am. And so it took me a long time to understand that, okay, I get it. And so, yes, I'm about to transition.
So can I just, there's a lot there, isn't there? There's a kind of a sense of identity. In our first podcast, we talked about some of the trauma that you experienced at the hands of members of your family and a neighbour, and how you kind of was processing and working through health stuff, and that it was the health MS was related to the trauma that you experienced.
Yes.
In this session, it feels like where your focus is about actually transitioning. And it's interesting because that's 20 years ago or 18 years ago you decided to sing. So my question to you would be, was you a singer? Did you know that you could sing beforehand? Or was music a way of healing through some of the...
Wonderful question.
Yes.
I love the question. Wow. No, I always knew. I'm not going to say that I always knew I could sing. I always sung. I've been singing since the age of 3 years old.
Okay. When you say that, was you in tune?
No, definitely not. I didn't become in tune. I think when I realized that I could sing was probably in my teenage years. I don't know specifically. Probably I was around 14, 15 when I was at school. I entered a few talent competitions and I won. Then I was entered into the ITV telethon competition when I was 15 years old, and I won that also. So that's when I realized, okay, Jay, you've actually got something here. And so I went on to do a lot more competitions down in London, where I didn't win, but I became runner-up or third place or second place, but I got far.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? You kind of knew from from early that there was a voice inside you, and then your kind of experiences at 14, 15 where you entered competitions. And they're not easy, are they, for singers to kind of enter things, but you actually being successful at a young age. Did you feel that you could be a singer, like as an occupation? Did you feel like this is what I could do, or did you have to do other things? as well as singing?
Do you know what, Corner? It's wonderful questions. I love it. Because in between singing, I was also a dancer. And
Okay.
so I formed a dance group with my little cousins and my brother when I was young. Probably around 11, 12 years old. I formed a dance group with them. But what was happening was I was doing the dancing and I was doing the singing, and I was doing both at the same time. But what would happen is I would always be nominated by the family to sing at weddings or christenings or funerals. And every time I would sing at these occasions, these celebrations, I would always be encouraged by the mother of the church to say, make sure you use that voice, make sure you use that gift that God has given you. Da, da, da. And I didn't really take it on board, if I'll be honest with you, because I was doing dancing and I was doing singing and I wasn't sure of what I wanted to do, because I was doing both. But then when me and my family, my cousins, we grew up and we all went our separate ways, I went on to creating a dance duo with me and my best friend. And we went on to doing great things also. So I actually put the singing aside for a while.
They were quite parallel.
Yes.
You weren't quite sure what to do.
I wasn't.
What was it about dance then? Because that's a really beautiful thing. And I suppose, when you kind of think about Beyonce and other people, Usher, who sing and dance,
and
other artists, what was it about dance at that stage that you kind of loved? And what dance did you do?
Well, my family, we are very musical, and I have two uncles. I mean, my uncles are 50 plus now, and they still dance. But we were into reggae dancing. How you would dance in a dance hall. And so growing up, seeing my uncles dance, I would try and mimic them, and really watch them closely. And that's how my group with my cousins and my brother got formed, because we would watch them closely. And then so we started to make our own routines, and we became Jason and the Argonauts, which is a really, really cheesy name, but that's who we were.
And then when you decided, okay, I want to use my voice, you said like the mother of the churches would say, use your gift.
Yeah.
And how did that feel? Did they want you to sing it in a certain way, or does your voice lend to a certain type of music?
Well, I mean, I grew up in the church. I sang at church for the first time when I was 3 years old. I joined my first choir. So that gospel influence, in my tone and my delivery was always there. And so obviously, being nurtured in the church, you have that vibe, that spirit about the way that you sing. And so I knew what they were talking about, but I wasn't, at a young age, I wasn't feeling what they were talking about until I became a little bit older. Do you know what I mean? I knew. I was like, okay, cool. I know I've come from the church background, but being a little rebel, I was like, that doesn't mean that I have to sing that way because I've come from that way. And so, but it wasn't until later on, until when I got baptized in 2000, when I started to sing in church, that I actually saw the effects of the gift
that you had. So what was your kind of musical genre then in the early days before you got baptized? Were you a hip hop tip or R&B or reggae man? Or
I was R&B. It's really weird that you would ask that question. That's really making me think. I was R&B. Oh yeah, I was very much R&B, which is really weird because that wasn't my influence growing up. My influence was reggae and revival and lovers rock. But when in my teenage years, I was singing a lot of R&B. It wasn't until after I got baptized that I started to venture into reggae, which is something that you're making me think about. I'm just like, okay, because really and truly, it should have been the other way around. But anyway.
What makes you feel it should have been the other way around?
Because the main influences in terms of music was reggae. Yeah. always in the household, because my cousin had a sound system. My uncles used to always play records in the house, and it was always reggae and lovers rock. My dad had a sound system. It was always reggae and lovers rock. So that's why I feel as though, okay, why didn't it happen the other way around? I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I also wonder as well, because you just turned 50, have you?
Just 50. I've arrived. Yes.
You have arrived. And I wonder, when I think about and listening to you talk about kind of your musical influence, here in the UK, it was lovers rock, and it was revival and rare groove,
that's right.
and R&B. So maybe there was a kind of part of you that kind of felt the need, or was it the commercial side of you? Maybe reggae wasn't mainstream enough, but pop, kind of R&B was.
That's a really, really good question, because I mean, when I was going to secondary school, I didn't really. You see what I'm saying? When I was going to secondary school, I would listen to lovers rock. When I used to have my little tape cassette on my headphones, it was always lovers rock, John McLean and Sanchez, and that stuff I used to listen to going to school. But when I got a little bit older, now I started to go into like my Freddie Jacksons and my Luther Vandross and I was actually into James Brown, which is so far away from everything. Do you get what I mean? And so, but when I had the opportunity to sing, I would probably sing R&B, probably a little bit of reggae here and there. But what it was as well, Queen, is at that time, it wasn't about backing tracks. You'd have to sing a cappella.
Okay.
And so, I guess anything that I would sing would probably sound R&B-ish, because there was no music accompaniment to do you get what I mean? And so, yes, you've given me food for thought.
Well, maybe there's something for you to think about, because actually, do you know what I'm thinking? I'm curious about the link between, because part 2 and what we kind of discussed was looking at the healing process, and I'm interested in your voice and the fact that humming is really healing, singing can be really healing, and I wonder how, in terms of what we discussed in the previous episode, how did dance and being creative help you process the experiences that you had that was difficult and it was based in trauma? Or were they very different and other things came into play?
Well, I mean, with the dancing was, for me, a way of expressing one's feeling. So upon reflection, I'm not going to say consciously I was dancing to shake off my problems, but I guess subconsciously that's what was taking place, because I was very, very intentional with my dance. I wouldn't just dance just for the sake of dancing. I would be very strict to my routines, and I was very disciplined, to the point that my little cousins and my brother, they didn't really like dancing with me, because they were like, if they got something wrong, we'd have to go right back to the beginning. I was very disciplined, and they were like, why can't we just start off where we just finished? And I was like, no, we have to go back to the beginning.
Having structure and discipline was really important to you.
Very.
My question, I suppose, then also is, did you go to art school, or did you go to dance or drama or music college?
Cornetta.
Or was this sweet, graft? Actually, your school was out in the community performing, and you didn't have those kind of pathways.
I didn't go to dance school. I actually applied for the Brits Performing Arts School, which I actually got into, but I didn't attend because my son was born when I was just about to go in, and I chose to be a dad at 17 rather than go to Brit school. So I didn't actually have any training.
Do you have any regrets? Because the Brit school, if people don't know, is one of the most prestigious schools for performers and offers that real unique space in the UK.
Wonderful question. There was a time when I felt regret for not going because I thought like, a lot of opportunities had passed me by. However, I don't regret making the choice of being a hands-on dad. I don't regret that at all. Um, and at the same time, I look at certain artists, as much as they've had opportunities, they are actually manufactured artists.
What do you mean by that? When you say manufactured artists, what do you mean?
But there's a few people that have come through the gate, and they've been signed, they've got their deals, but later on down the line they've come away from their deals because they're not able to be who they are. Do you get what I mean? Don't want to mention no names because I want to be respectful to people, but there are a couple of artists that I've seen that I'm a fan of, but they've actually come away from deals and management and stuff because they weren't able to be organic, and I consider myself to be an organic artist.
Oh, it's interesting you saying that because there's a lot of black musicians that don't necessarily always get the recognition.
That's right.
I don't know if it's about being deserved, but maybe it's not in the same way as maybe mainstream artists who are born and are not black or a person of color. And also I'm thinking about other communities that don't have the exposure that they did or do now in terms of their talents and opportunities. So what was it like for you then growing up in London? Did you get access to the support or the resources or the opportunities that you wanted?
I didn't. I wouldn't say that I didn't have access to it. I just didn't know where to go. I came from a community where we had to just find our way. I went to my secondary school. I went to in Cresset School in High Wycombe. My headmistress was trying to be as helpful as she could in terms of there was lots of theatre production that she would put me forward to take part in. I was actually part of the West Side Story theatre production in the Swan Theatre in High Wycombe. I was actually lead role, which was a fantastic experience. I was doing contemporary dance, never done contemporary dance in my life. I had a couple of, I wouldn't say a couple, I had about 3 or 4 months training in contemporary dance and went into this big theatre production, and it was fantastic. But that was
the Swan Theatre is a big deal for
it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And obviously those that know about West Side Story, there was a female that was on the other side of the West Side. And those girls that we were dancing with, they came from the boarding school. They came from an all-girls boarding school. And it was a really eerie, funny situation because we wouldn't usually have access to them. But we came together, this little street guy came together with this fantastic, I remember her name was Ellen, girl from the boarding school, and we just had this wonderful theatre production. I think it was 3 nights back to back, and it was amazing.
What did you do next then? It sounds like you didn't know how to you didn't necessarily know where to go or get the support, but then you also had access.
That's right.
Because you got the opportunities to do these productions in terms of, you saying West Side Story, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Where next, and how did that help in terms of your healing? Did you still struggle with the traumas that you experienced as a child, or did you just bury them? Because some people forget that they happen.
That's exactly what happened. Everything got buried. I don't remembering anything about any trauma throughout my whole schooling life. I don't remember anything at all. It wasn't until I left school, like I said in the previous conversation we had, it wasn't until around 24, 25 that I actually remembered. So all that time, I was, I would say that I was living a fruitful childhood, teenager life up until the age of 24.
what did you write about? What did you dance? You got the opportunity to go to Swan.
Yeah.
You're doing these productions.
Yeah.
What did you write about? How did you dance? How did contemporary dance inform your dancing afterwards? Because
Well, that's the thing. It didn't, because contemporary dance and, reggae dance is two different worlds, like completely. One doesn't influence the other at all, in my personal opinion. Because that type of contemporary dance I was doing was borderline in a little bit of ballet. So we can't, incorporate that in reggae dance. And so they were just worlds apart. But whatever it was in either worlds, I would literally immerse myself and throw myself into it and just gave it all I got. And after that, after doing the West Side Story production, I left school. And I was called back to school to work with sixth form students for an end of summer production.
School recognised your talent and brought you back. Did you then? It's interesting, isn't it? Because I'm kind of hearing that actually you really had some skills that not only you recognised, but your people around you, the school organisations recognised. Because they could let you go. Yes, wonderful.
Of course.
Good luck.
Yes.
But they kind of brought you back.
Yes.
What did you do with your talent? You've got talent. And you have to do some dodgy jobs. Did you have to kind of do other things to kind of sustain your love, or was you able to sustain your love of music?
No, I mean, going back to school and working with the sixth form students was really, 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 really I'm not gonna say strange, interesting, because I didn't just go back as, a teacher to teach them drama and music. Because what happened, they wanted to form a sixth form choir for the end of year project, showcase. Sorry. So I came back as a music teacher, but I was also a mentor, which was, I'm not going to say strange. I'm going to say that was designed. And I would literally was just have one-to-ones with them, speak to them about what's going on at school, what's going on at home. No qualifications in terms of paper, but I had the qualifications of life myself. Obviously coming from, traumas and stuff, and, navigating my way through my stuff, I was able to help them also.
So what was that like to be able to be of service? Is it something because in your profession in terms of like mentoring and supporting others, and even in your work, has it always been intentional, or have you just fallen into spaces and then found that your skills were desired?
I mean, I would say previously, earlier on, I would literally, my gift was making room for me. That's what I would say in the early days. But now, obviously the years have passed, I know exactly what it is that I have, and so I'm a lot more intentional now. So
your gift, would you say your gift is making room for me?
My gift made room for me, yes, of course.
Okay. And what does that mean, do you think?
Basically, it's another way of saying that, whatever is mine was coming my way, it wasn't passing me by.
In terms of your own healing process, the gifts that's kind of made room for you, was that part of the healing process? What was the healing process in these spaces? Because when you think about some of the most successful people, often come from most traumatic backgrounds.
Yes.
This a need to succeed in some way is driven. I might even go and say that actually people who are much more secure in their childhood experiences might not need to be so ambitious.
Yes.
But you tend to find people who experience a lot of trauma really going for it. How did you get to where you got to?
I mean, I think that I believe, never think, I believe that um, you know, I've always been the kind of person to feel fulfilled by giving. Um, and but I also feel as though that I had that sense of feeling important, feeling like I'm worthy, like I'm someone, just by giving, and seeing the benefits and the rewards of giving to someone or helping someone over, a hurdle, and so, but it made me feel like, okay, Jay, well, you know what, but you are someone, you are important too. And I feel like that was the beginning of my healing, because now I've gone on to where I'm at now is I write songs that inspire and heal, but in turn I'm healing myself.
You write songs that inspire and heal, but you're healing yourself. So do you feel like that you're still on a journey, that actually part of the process of healing has been kind of recognizing that you're important? You're just as important than anyone else.
Well, I think my healing process is different now. I believe that my pastime traumas, it is well. It is well with my soul, so to speak. I've accepted, and I've overcome. My healing process now is about what happened last week, what happened last year, the things that I have to. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's really, because I think sometimes people don't know. I think sometimes, and maybe it's because the lens in which I sit in terms of work. I meet people who haven't processed, realized some difficult experiences.
Yes.
Don't know how to. So regardless of what age.
Yes.
You've done something quite unique, because a lot of people don't talk about their trauma until quite later on in their life and start working on it.
Yes.
Whereas you, as a journey of recognizing that you're just important, or you're not just your trauma and your experience,
yes,
been able to kind of grow.
Yes. And it's funny because in 2002 I was part of a praise and worship team, choir, in a church, and we would meet on a Tuesday for to come together, talk about our week, pray for each other. And there was a young lady, I can't remember her name, but there was a young lady that said to me, you are going to go on to writing songs that are going to heal people, and that's going to heal yourself. Like, you're going to heal yourself through the songs that you're writing. And at that time, I wasn't really writing songs. I was doing poetry at the time, because this is how the songwriting started. I started off writing poetry, and I went away from that prayer meeting thinking, whatever, because I'm not even writing songs. Lo and behold, I mean, that was in 2002. Lo and behold, in 2024, I am writing songs, I have written songs and still writing songs that has prepared me for what's to come.
So that's interesting. Someone recognized something in your poetry.
Yes.
That had a kind of musicality about it.
Well, I guess so. For me, I didn't recognize it as that. For them, I guess they did.
What was your first poem that you wrote? Do you remember?
I think it might have been The Crushing, where I was talking about the process of the olive oil, and saying that explaining that for you to get this wonderful product, the olive has to go through a process of crushing. And I was using that as a reference to us going through things in life in order for us to get that beautiful oil.
So there's a part of your poetry that kind of looked at life and said, actually, we've got to go through a crushing, a trauma, sometimes, to get to the other end. And then the product at the other end is the olive oil, the kind of thing that we need.
That's right.
That's quite profound. How old were you when you wrote that? Those ideas.
I was probably around 22, 23. I would say around 22, yeah.
So if people don't know, that's before you kind of awoke from
Yes.
your trauma, but you're starting
Wow,
to think about
listen to
that.
the light bulb. That's the light bulb moment right there. Yes. Indeed, yes. Wow. Wow. Wow.
Why is it a
Wow.
light bulb moment, do you think? What are you thinking about?
Do you know what? It's just a realization that I was highlighting that you have to go through the crushing before I had the dream, because it was 2 years later that I had the dream. And I find it amazing that, but Jason, you wrote about the crushing without even consciously realizing that you've been through the crushing, and now you're about to realize the crushing.
Or who knows? It's hard to know, isn't it? Because there's
Wow.
One of my favorite people is Van der Kolk, and he is a psychologist, and he's done a lot of writing on trauma, and he talks about the body keeps the score. So I think that sometimes when we experience dissociation, where parts of us are awake and present and able to be successful and get on with the job and of life, pay the bills, and there's another part of us that is not awake, but our body keeps a score. So we might emotionally overeat, or we might drink too much, or we might undereat, or we might be triggered, but we don't understand why. So there's all these things that can kind of be happening to us.
Sorry, so who is that? I need to make a note. Who is that?
I will send it in you, Van der Kolk.
Please, because that just really hit my marrow.
So when you think about the body keeps the scores, and so there's lots of other people that write about this, and I'll put it up for people so that I get the right pronunciation. Basil Van der Kolk. He's Peter Levine, and there are others as well who write about trauma and write about some of the difficulties and challenges, and maybe also they write about recovery and growth.
Right.
I think what I take away from stuff, they talk about the neuroscience and about the body, but they also talk about kind of resourcing ourselves afterwards.
Right.
Because we get frozen in time, and we can sometimes get trapped and we can't move forward.
Yes.
But not all of us does that, you know.
Yes. Wow. Okay. Wow.
You talked about, you know, today you was thinking about kind of, you know, growth and healing.
Yes.
How do you feel about our conversation so far, and what was the growth and healing for you? Was it in the writing, in the performing, and knowing that you're more than just what experiences that you've had? Or is it actually as you growing in terms of masculinity, as a black man, as a father, you know, as a cousin, as a brother, as a mentor, you know, is it through your own nurturing yourself and your environment and your beliefs that has led you to the spaces that you are now?
I mean, in regards to the healing, you know, I think that for me, it was really important for me to first accept what took place, but recognize that it wasn't no fault of my own. That's what was important for me. And so there was a time frame that I had to deal with that. I mean, there was even a time frame where it made me realize why, at a younger age, why I had questioned my sexuality. Do you get what I mean? You know, there was a time where when I was around probably around, I would say around 11, 12, where a neighbor of mine, you know, used to play around, you know, with me, and it made me question at that time, is this okay? Am I supposed to be doing this? And it wasn't until later on in life that I would always remember the neighbor and think to myself, well, I'm not having much luck with girls at school. Am I supposed to be doing what the neighbor was trying to entice me to do? But then I created a block for that also. I would be like, okay, cool. Well, from what I understand, that's not supposed to be okay. And so I'll block that out and just continue.
I suppose that's, when you think about 11-year-olds, 10, 11, 12, 13, we're transitioning, aren't we? That's
yes,
kind of
that's right. That's right.
So we have many feelings, and
yes.
I speak to people and clients and friends who are gay or identify non-binary. They knew a long time ago. They knew like at 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah.
Their families knew a long time ago, but maybe have been in denial and didn't offer those kind of spaces.
Yeah.
Natural and normal thing to kind of go through. I suppose the reason why I'm raising this, did you have spaces to talk to anyone about it?
Oh no, definitely not. Definitely not. There was not one person that I would, and it wasn't just that I didn't have anybody to talk to. The way I was raised, I wouldn't dare speak to anybody about it.
Yeah. And I suppose that's because of your family of origin and also the community.
Yes, community, of course. Yeah. I mean, it was very much frowned upon.
Yeah, so it was quite a homophobic community.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, things have changed now. I mean, in terms of how because I'm very intentional about my environment. Do you know what I mean? And so I make sure. I mean, I'm cool with everybody on all walks of life. And I choose to have.
Do you know what's really wonderful? I think that I have. I really love the fact that young people can be who they want to be at this present time in their life.
Yeah.
There is space for and conversation for all forms of sexuality.
Yes.
That hasn't been defined, and some spaces may frown upon it, and some spaces might not frown. But I think I'm really blessed, because I think I would have hated to be, having difficult kind of thoughts and having no space.
That's right.
Not the same.
That's right.
As other the wider community. In the regional areas. So when you're in big cities, you've got access to community people who can talk to you about your sexuality.
Yes.
Small towns like High Wycombe, Slough, maybe Scotland or Wales, there might not have been spaces where you can talk about film.
Yeah.
What made you grow then? What makes you kind of continue to be the man that you are in the way that you are? What makes you want to push forward and share your voice, your music, your thoughts, your ideas out there?
Wow.
What do you want us to take away from our conversations as well?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I am a son, a brother, and a father, and I say that proudly. And I believe that part of my reason for being here is to be a rock, a strong tower, and a person of inspiration for my mother and for my brother. My brother's going through a really bad time right now. Being a father is not easy, I don't know what anybody's told anyone, but being a hands-on father, because I've always been a hands-on father. I like to get up and feed babies and change nappies, and and it's not easy being a parent. And so and I believe that I have a responsibility to be someone to look up to someone to rely on, someone to encourage, and someone to help someone get over that hill, that that barrel. And so for me, I believe that part of my purpose of being here is to help others, not just my immediate family, but just people along life's journey.
It's really lovely to hear from you, because at the moment, when I kind of listen to, I'm not very au fait on social media, but I am present.
Yeah.
And so I'm aware of lots of kind of discourse around men in general. And it feels like there's a quite fractious way of living between men and women.
Yes.
The fact to hear you know, that you're wanting to be a role model. There's a stereotype we've had, haven't we? We've had a stereotype where black men are not present in their children's lives. And are quite remote.
Yes.
For you, in terms of your masculinity, you know, you kind of questioned, okay, when I was younger, I was quite thoughtful, right?
Yes.
But for you as a man now, you embodies your own sexuality. What do you want to say to other men, you know, that would help them? Or women who date them, or, you know, or men who date men?
Oh, gosh, Cornetta, I think you want me to buy a mansion for you to live in the West Wing and I live in the East Wing. You know what it is? I think it's very important for men to be in touch with their emotions. We have been, you know, it has been embedded in us to not cry, not show affection, not show feelings. And I'm a big crier, and I encourage any man, if you feel something, let it out. Keeping it in can only do bad. And even my young son, I encourage him to, you know, speak. You know, don't need to speak to me, but find someone to talk to, because, you know, that's one thing that as a man growing up, I found it difficult to. I find it difficult to trust someone with my innermost feelings, you know. But yeah, I would encourage men to really be in touch with how they feel and not be afraid to express. And as for the women, let us be who we are, you know, because I've been in relationships where, you know what, I felt like I can't be me. I can't be the person that, if something really hurts me, that I can really lay on your shoulder as a big strapping man and cry on your shoulder. And it's supposed to be equal. It's supposed to go both ways. And so I just think a little bit of understanding would be nice for us men sometimes.
What's because that's interesting, isn't it? You just said that, because I think, you know, as human beings, we are part of the problem and the solution. And so men are asking, or you're asking, you're saying, actually, there are times that men might need to lean on you, and for you to be able to be open to that. There's a mixed messaging, isn't there, around masculinity?
Yes.
Where they're saying, I want you to be a man.
Yeah.
Alpha, but don't be too alpha, because I want you to have feelings and understand my feelings.
Yes.
And then there's a spectrum that actually gender, male, female spectrum, non-binary, you know, there's a richness of ideas, and not every man has to be that kind of traditional kind of man that does things, but actually be vulnerable as well.
That's the word. That's the word. And that's what we are afraid of. I can speak for myself and a few men that are around in my life as friends. We're afraid to be vulnerable because we're looked upon as weak because we're vulnerable.
Can I just ask you, I know like we're coming towards the end of our session, but I think I to ask one more question.
It's fine.
I would like to know, what does it mean to be a black man in the UK, April 2024, in relation to white men and Asian men and Chinese men and other men? You know, what does that mean? Do you feel that you can achieve the successes that you want to? Do you feel that you can have the relationships that you deserve and need to thrive? Do you have the community around you, which is either local in terms of maybe regional, or or national in terms of being with men from all over the place that shares a common view?
That's interesting that you'd ask that question, because for me, I can only speak for myself in this aspect. I believe that I can be anything that I want to be. I believe that I have the gift, the skills, the talent, all the attributes. I believe that anything that I set my mind to, I can achieve. That's just me. I do know of guys that are struggling. I don't know if they're struggling because of color, but I do recognize that there is that we of people, as people of color, that we have to dig a little bit deeper. We have to try a little bit harder. We have to go that extra mile. But I believe that I do believe in creating opportunities for yourself. I've always said, I don't know whether anyone else agrees, but I've always said, if opportunity is not knocking on your door, then you're living at the wrong house. Do you get what I mean? That's how that's how I look at it. And so, but yeah, I don't believe that anybody else of any other color is more greater than I am.
So this is not about race. This is not about culture.
Not for me.
About making your own opportunities that you kind of feel.
Yeah, I believe that I have greatness within me. That's me.
Finally, before we go, what would you tell your younger self? What would you like to say to your younger self that you haven't already done so?
I would have said to myself to pay more attention to my guardians. I'm not gonna say my parents. I'm gonna say to my guardians, because I had many people that were a part of my upbringing. I should have paid more attention, definitely.
What would you like to say to your future self?
Oh, pay attention. Definitely pay attention, because I tell you, the road that I'm on, it's a road that's I'm on a musical road, and there's lots of vipers and backstabbers. And Jason Johnson, pay attention.
Jason Johnson, thank you very much for being curious with
Thank you very much for having me. Wonderful, thank you.
I really appreciate your openness and your journey, your musicality. I feel like people could listen to you all day long.
Bless you.
Where can people find you in terms of a musician? If we want to book you, where do we find you?
What I would say is I'm on all the platforms: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. The spelling of my name is JayBorn, the number 2 SING. Type that into Google, and all my platforms and everything which shall come up.
Jason, thank you.
Thank you very much, Queen. I really appreciate it. Bless you.